Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, students. Just wanted confirmation of my voice. Yeah, I think I'm audible. I am able to hear myself. Welcome everybody to Unacademy for our session today on the 4th of August. All those who attended my sessions yesterday would probably. So, So all those who attended my sessions yesterday would know that I was unable to take the daily newspaper sessions on the first and the second of this month, which is why yesterday I did for the first and of course yesterday's, which is third. But today I will be conducting first for the second and then for the fourth. I think the computer has hung, but I'll just continue speaking on this. Yes, now it's working. Sorry for the delay, all of you. Now we'll probably begin. So, welcome all of you to Unacademy. Some of you might be aware I could not take up my daily newspaper reading on the first and the second. So, on the third, I did for the first and the third. Today, I'm going to do for the fourth and the second. So, the first session is for the second, which was a Sunday. Some of you might be wondering what's the use of doing a newspaper for 2 days back, especially when a newspaper covers the previous day's information. So it's in a way 3 days back of information, but be rest assured, I will be looking at broad aspects and not the nitty gritties of daily case counts or scorecard of a test match. I'm not going to do that. The broad aspects such as the editorial, and the good thing is 2 days back, which is the second, was actually a Sunday, so there's actually a lot of feature articles to discuss from that day. Continuing, I'll just give you a little bit of introduction about the Unacademy platform before we move ahead. As many of you might be aware, we are India's largest online learning platform. We of course are among the market leaders for courses like NEET, JEE, UPSC, UGC NET, etc. But of course, now we are also making quite a mark in CAT as well, and all the other management exams as well. So we really hope that this year we will become leading management experts. I wanted to draw your attention to my YouTube page as well. On the right side, among the lectures, you can see Mr. Rajul Khare's sessions. Do attend them as well. We are part of the same team. We are part of what is called Let's Crack Management Exams. So I'm pointing my cursor there. So do take a look at his sessions as well. He's one of the best quants teachers. This is a brief about myself. My name, as many of you might be aware by now, is Aritro Dasgupta. I have about a decade's experience in teaching, training, and in content writing primarily, little bit also into strategy consulting. I'm an MBA from Indian Institute of Forest Management in the area of forest management, as the name of the institute suggests. This is my experience. Worked with different facets within the education sector as well. My experience, of course, has primarily been in India, but also there is some part of it which is in the Middle East. I've also been published in the USA. My sessions have been recorded as part of the curriculum in a university in Nigeria as well. Last 5 years, I've been intensively associated with the coaching industry, and several of my students have actually aced the exams such as CAT, CLAT, DUJAT, and several others as well. So most of that was offline, but I'm really confident this year online as well. Me and my team will be doing likewise. So what you're gonna get from my classes, please take a look. First of all, you get daily live classes, as I think you must be aware. If you type my name here with the Unacademy tag, even otherwise, if you can go for my channel, which is Let's Crack Management Exams, you can actually go through all my sessions in the past. So you get unlimited access. The moment you're enrolled, you can go through a number of sessions. Even if you've missed out a live session, you can always see the recordings. You can either download and watch it, or you can go back and from the archives you can see. But there are lots of live tests and quizzes. So you can see on the right hand side we have a chat window, a live chat window on YouTube as my cursor is pointing towards. I'll be engaging you guys with questions there periodically. The course content is structured. We have a head office in Bengaluru, of course, the Silicon Valley of India. So that's where lots of IT experts are there, and people from different educational backgrounds. They have come up with the course content. We educators, of course, have the option of improvising on that, but the overall pedagogy remains well fixed. These are some of our star educators, so do take a look at their names. Besides the names, do take a look at their watch minutes and the number of followers each of them has. This is an older piece of news. I mean, this all of this. So, in fact, the stats have, if they are updated, they'll be even more impressive right now. This is another sample of some more of our top educators. I have no clue what happened. So, something seems to be going awry today. Um Right, just continuing on, I have already covered these slides. So this is a sample of a few more of our top educators. You can see their names. This is how you actually get the notifications for all the classes. For example, if you want to understand on percentage foundations, so you have a class at 3 p.m. It's not today. As I said, this is a sample of things that have been done in the past. Right, it's I guess working now. But really hope no more interruptions. You also get notifications of different batches that are beginning, which are typically held on unacademy.com. I don't think on YouTube you have specific batches. Batches are held on unacademy.com. My debut there will be pretty soon. Right now I'm taking primarily YouTube. Right, so there's a schedule that works for you. I've already explained to you. You don't need to be present during the live class, but you can always go back to the sessions. Right now, as you can see, not many live viewers here, but if you look at the recordings and when I go back to my sessions, I see about 100 views within a few days itself. So that's pretty common thing. You can watch the session anytime you want. There's no language barrier as well. I'll be conducting most of my classes in English, peppered with quite a bit of Hindi. But then you have faculty in different languages. So overall, 16 languages we offer our courses in. You can learn anytime, anywhere. That's the best part. You just need a PC, a tablet, or a mobile phone. You can answer live polls. Again, this is something which works better from the unacademy.com rather than on YouTube. I can ask here, but it works better there. So you can actually interact with your educator to get your doubts cleared. So again, I'll point out to you the right hand side, you have the live chat window. Do put in your comments anything which you wish to ask something, or you want to comment something. I may have made some mistake. You can point out the factual error. I will be happy to incorporate that. You get live tests. This I've already explained to you. You get detailed PDFs and learning material. Not so much in the newspaper sessions, because the newspaper itself is the learning material. I'm expecting you guys will go through at least the e-edition or maybe the physical edition as well. But in addition, you could also, what I'm trying to point out through this is, some of you may have attended my classes. I took one on history. I took one on importance of GK in management exams, and of course, I've taken several on monthly current affairs, three each for January, February, and May. So there you would have noticed detailed explanations, detailed PDFs are mentioned there. I want all of you to read this slide once. Both the blocks are the same. This is my code AD09. So just read this once before I start talking on this. I'm sure you guys have seen this. So, as you can all notice, if it's a for a month that you enrolled, you pay 3,150 for a month. That's after a 10% discount. It's actually 3,500. But once you put in my code of 8009, it becomes 3,150, which doesn't seem very high. But if it's for just 1 month, it is a bit high. But on the other hand, if you see how it progresses over a period of 12 months, per month cost reduces by 58%, which is more than half. So all those who are really serious of the exam, minimum go for 12 months. Why 12 months? Because the CAT is, of course, we are now into August. CAT is typically in November, so that's a few months away. It could get delayed this year due to COVID-19, but all the other papers have been postponed. All this while IIT, law, medical, all these have been kept on being postponed continuously. Now in November, if it gets postponed, so that's again one thing. But even if it doesn't, under normal circumstances, January you receive the CAT results. February and March are you guys are busy with interviews, group discussions, VAT, etc. So basically, till March is the minimum period that you require some form of assistance. And of course, if it gets delayed, it will be even more. So 12-month package, which is a year, is the best one for you guys. Many people do a repeat; they go for CAT twice, or go for 24 months. In that case, you just pay a little bit more for that. So I'm done with the introduction on the Unacademy platform. Now I will talk about the meat of today's class, which is the daily newspaper. So as I said, I'll be talking about Sunday. Sunday I was unable to procure the Hindu, which is usually the newspaper of choice, which I usually cover. But I was able to get the Times of India, which of course has a really detailed Sunday edition, the Sunday Times as it's known as. So I will begin duly with that newspaper. So here it is, the Sunday Times newspaper. Okay, so there's actually really important news right on top of the newspaper. There are two related news items. One of them, I will read out to you, the guys, the headline. It says Apple vendor eyes production shift to India. This is really good news. I mean, we haven't yet had the full, it hasn't been fully confirmed. But if the early trends can be noticed, this is definitely a possibility. I don't know if you're aware, there is a German shoemaker which has already transferred its production facilities from China to the city of Agra in Uttar Pradesh, near Delhi, of course. Something more on that could take place. Now, there's one more headline, which is Apple removes 30,000 apps from China store. That's interesting. The fact that all these Apple vendors will shift towards India, this will generate a total of 55,000 jobs. That's what the early report suggests. A contract manufacturer for Apple is shifting 6 production lines from China in order to export iPhones worth a staggering $5 billion from India, apart from also catering to the domestic market. $5 billion worth will be exported out of India, but also there will be massive production for India. Who knows, our iPhones could also become cheaper then. So I'll actually go through this detailed report and then I will come back to the first page. So the detailed report is on page 9, where the Minister of Law, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, he's also the Information Technology Minister. He has spoken in detail about this. Let me just check my voice a little bit once again, because we've had a few interruptions. Fair enough. It's pretty clear. I'm able to notice. So now coming into it, okay. So I'll read out the names of a few companies among Apple's contract manufacturers. One is Wistron, another is Pegatron, Foxconn, which is a big Taiwanese company, one of the largest parts makers of Apple. You also have Korean giants Samsung, and even Indian players who have not been. I mean, you probably are aware of these brands. They came up, could not compete with Chinese brands, but Micromax used to be big at one stage. I remember them sponsoring the IPL. Micromax and Dixon Lava will both also be manufacturing. So they mean their mobile manufacturing business, their brands are over now. There are no more Micromax or Lava phones, but they do have large manufacturing facilities. So this will make use of existing manufacturing facilities, right? So this system is actually known as a brownfield. Brownfield investment. Greenfield is when you're doing on something absolutely new. Gray field is when something is degraded, you acquire it to do something. Brownfield is when everything is good. The manufacturing facilities are there. It's just that nothing is taking place there. It's becoming like what we call a white elephant. So we don't want that to happen, which is why we are. These facilities can be used up for this. So 11.5 lakh crore will be the amount that will be invested under the scheme over the next 5 years, as confirmed by the Minister of IT. I will also move to page number 16 of the newspaper before I go back. So that's the last page. Uh, so here again, there is news on this. So Apple has removed more than 29, to be specific, 29,800 apps from its Chinese App Store, which includes 26,000 games. This is as per detailed report from the research firm Qimai, QIMAI. This is because of a crackdown on unlicensed Chinese apps. There's a lot of fear that Chinese firms are, the tech apps, they are actually stealing data from the mobile phones they're operating in. And of course, with the US China relations being at a low for a long time, this is something which the US authorities are really scared of. There is also an outlash in the USA against TikTok. More on that later. I'll just come back to the first page now. So China somehow does not escape our daily newspapers. There's also Nepal that we've spoken about quite a lot. In fact, one of my current affairs sessions, I explained to you how Nepal, or what is the reason that Nepal and India are not going through the best of relations. I explained to you in detail the entire Lipolek Pass challenge. Right. So now what Nepal has decided is they I told you the other day they have updated their map, which includes the Lipulek Pass and the entire Kalapani territory. Kalapani is the, just to give you in brief, it's the watershed area of the Kali River. The Kali River, which is a tributary of the Ghagra, which in turn is a tributary of the Ganga. Kali River is supposed to be the boundary between India and Nepal, as agreed with the British in 1947. So by that logic, Lipulek Pass belongs to India, but China says that by Kali River, what the British and what the document meant was the watershed area, which includes the origin of the Kali River. So that entire area is known as Kala Pani. So this new map will now be sent by Nepal to the United Nations. This is a really aggressive pact. This will also include the Limpiadhura, which is again an important area there. The Chinese President Xi Jinping has actually supported his Nepali counterpart, Mr. Oli. Says that we are supporting, not necessarily for Lipulek. That's again one of the incidents. He did not directly name Lipulek, but he says that we want to strengthen China-Nepal relations. Okay, so there has been the tragic death of a very important political personality. This happened on the first, and his name, I think you have understood by now. I'm talking about Amar Singh, who was one of the top political leaders from North India, especially the state of Uttar Pradesh. He was part of the Samajwadi Party. He was considered especially close, almost like a right hand man to towering leader Mulayam Singh Yadav. He faced, he did have his problems, Amar Singh, later on with Mulayam Singh Yadav's son, Akhilesh. So he was expelled from the party. I'm not sure, but I think he joined the Rashtriya Lokdal for a while. But right now he's a Rajya Sabha MP as an independent, but with support from the Samajwadi Party. Um, he was also considered quite close to Amitabh Bachchan and to Anil Ambani. So politics, cinema, and business. He had connections all over. Mm, in fact, Amitabh Bachchan's wife, a great actress in her own right, Jaya Bachchan, is also has also been associated with the Samajwadi Party. That is something about Amitabh Bachchan. Now, Manish Sisodia, who's the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, he has written to Mr. Amit Shah, who's of course, the Union Home Minister, asking him to intervene when it comes to hotels in Delhi. I think I had spoken to you yesterday how the Delhi government has allowed hotels to function, but the LG, the Lieutenant Governor, has revoked that order. In Delhi, there is dual government, unlike full-fledged states where the chief minister has complete power over things which are under the state list. In Delhi, because it's a half state, it is not a full-fledged state, it still has features of a union territory. So the LG, the lieutenant governor, is another power center, just like the chief minister. So you often see clashes between them. So now Mr. Sisodia has asked Mr. Amit Shah to intervene in this matter to get a resolution so that the people can be benefited. There's some really encouraging news about GST, Goods and Services Tax, which you know are all aware is now the single indirect tax in India. Surprisingly, perhaps, in spite of such massive economic troubles in the last couple of months, the GST collections have been around 95% of pre-COVID averages. So it is pretty good. In fact, three states, which is Nagaland in the northeast and Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh from the Hindi belt, all three of them have confirmed that their collections have been greater than last year, which is phenomenal and probably something which we can't understand fully how really this really happened. I'll move in a little bit to the local pages. Today's session could be a little shorter than usual because, as you're aware, I'm only doing one newspaper. Um, Coming to the page on Delhi, the number of red zones have reduced by a staggering 219 due to the excellent fight put up by Delhi and its residents and the government. The city now sees far fewer cases, far fewer casualties. So, 219 red zones have been de-escalated. And where are these 219? Just to quickly give you a sum up. In central Delhi, there are only 39 zones remaining, down from 59 just a few days back. In the east, they've reduced by 4. In New Delhi, which is again the central area, it's gone down by 11. North gone down by 22. Northeast by 16. Northwest by 21. In the Shahadra belt by 36, from 43 containment zones to a mere 7. In South Delhi, which is one of the most affluent in the entire country, which saw the among the first waves due to the fact that there are a lot of international travelers. South Delhi saw 77 earlier, but now only 50. So southeast from 31 to 30, so more or less the same. Southwest 127 to 109. The west got reduced from 104 to 61. Right. I think I will need to attach the charger. That I'll do in a while. The rest is mostly local news. Okay, well, what one of some of the experts have said that as is well known, the coronavirus has not been isolated easily. We are not really sure about the COVID-19 virus itself because virologists have not been able to isolate it from other diseases. So it is well known that it hits and it fatally hits people who already have some pre-existing conditions, which is why experts say that old illnesses need to be controlled. We know better about the older diseases, but if we let them go out of control, and of course we also have COVID-19, the people who've been suffering will be hit double or triple hard. So that needs to be the complications need to be cut there. Zero survey started last Saturday. 1,500, the second phase of the zero survey. 1,500 samples collected on a single day. First was also Eid. Jama Masjid was relatively quiet, unlike the usual times. Unlike the other years, when of course it's bustling on this day. Delhi has actually started some really interesting new initiative with 650 cameras have been installed all over the city, especially in the northwest. So 650 new cameras in northwest Delhi to check crime. This is mainly to prevent trafficking and kidnapping, which is something the High Court was really concerned about. This is the High Court orders. In spite of the July rains, the rains in Delhi overall remains 25% below what should have been the long-term average. But meteorologists are predicting that August will be a good month, and there will be normal rainfall by the end of August. Right. The rest is fairly localized. Okay, I'll just connect the charger, then I'll continue. Yes, thanks for giving me that time. Okay, so there is some news again from South Delhi from CR Park. Some persons has been booked because that person carelessly threw the PPE kit. So anyway, I don't want to discuss too much into all these things. The European Union has also called for greater dialogue, peaceful dialogue with China as far as possible. Otherwise, the need to be more aggressive. Okay, there is a detailed report on the mobile phone market and its 25-year journey from 1994, which is when the first mobile phones came into right now, and how it used to be a luxury, and now it is. India has among the cheapest mobile phone rates. So there's a 3,000 time growth in number of mobile phone users from 1995 till 2019. The landline subscribers though has remained pretty much stagnant. It has barely increased from 9.8 million in 1995 to 21.7 million. Now these 25 years have been amongst the best in terms of economic growth. So under normal circumstances, we would probably have reached 100 million, but it has barely grown by 100%. Mobile phones, on the other hand, from almost zero, we now have 1,161.7 million, which is 1.16 billion mobile phone subscribers. Mm, and that overall telephone penetration is actually much better than penetration of many other things. It stands at 90.1, which is, of course, staggering. So there is also a throwback to a really interesting song. I remember this song. I believe it's from the movie Hasina Man Jayegi, which was one of my favorite comedies growing up. A movie from 1999. There was this song there, starring Govinda and Karishma Kapoor, titled as "What Is Mobile Number." So all the youngsters who have probably not heard of this song or will not understand the relevance must probably look at this song just for 2-3 minutes. So this song became a massive hit in 1999, although India had only a million odd cell phone users back then. Another interesting thing is about phone booths. In 2002, there was a big hit Hollywood movie called Phone Booth, starring the Irish actor Colin Farrell. That's a movie which many won't be able to understand now. Why? Because phone booths have hardly, the phone booths was so much ubiquitous all over the bigger cities. Having maximum number of phone booths was often an indicator to the city's connectivity. London was dotted with them, the red colored ones. Any movies you see before 2000, you will see red colored phone booths all over London, with the yellow pages in there so that you can search for the address. Now, those phone booths have reduced significantly. There are only four now remaining in the entire city of New York City, just four. Count has also declined in India. There are only zero point 0.1 million, which is a lack of village public telephones in 2019, and only double that, which is 2 lakh public call offices in 2019. Back in 2008, there were more than 6 million of them. Uh, I'll just take you through the timeline a little bit. 1994 was the first time that the private sector was allowed in cellular and radio paging service. There was also something called a pager, which arrived back in those days in the first flush of liberalization in India, economic liberalization. And I remember many people had their pagers tied to their, belts. So this was auctioned in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai. In 1995, there was this company called the Modi Telstra, which set up the first telephone network again in Kolkata. The Chief Minister of West Bengal, who was, of course, one of the tallest leaders in the country at that time, from the Communist Party of India, Marxist, Mr. Jyoti Basu, he made the first call to Union Telecom Minister Sukram, who was, of course, at the center. 1997, TRAI was set up, which is Telecom Regulator Authority of India, which is an independent regulator. That's the beauty of India's democracy. These institutions, by and large, remain independent, and that's TRAI is one of them. In 1999, operators are allowed to share revenue with government instead of paying license fee. So this actually incentivizes them rather than paying a fixed amount. So for a lot of the smaller players, they may not have been viable because they would pay a lot for the license fee and then not be able to continue with the business, may not earn enough. On the other hand, you now pay only as much as you earn, only by that proportion. This could also benefit the government because obviously these years saw massive increase in the mobile phone subscriber base, and of course a substantial percentage of that would reach the government. 2001, fixed line service providers allowed to start limited mobile networks. Still now, mobile phone operators and fixed line operators were kept separate. 2001, the same players could operate both. So this allowed inter-device compatibility, really important for the office networks. The next year, Reliance jumped into the business. Reliance Infocom started the first CDMA mobile service. It offered phone for as low as rupees 500, which was really cheap back then. National roaming rates were then regulated. Initially, mobile phone calls used to be really expensive, but on top of that, if you were on roaming, uh, it was almost like a loot back then. It was, one had to pay a lot for interstate, but that got regulated 2002 onwards. So slowly and steadily, we were improving on this count. Incoming calls on cell phones were made free in 2003, which wasn't the case before that. It is hard to believe for youngsters today, but back then we had to pay for incoming as well. More mobile phones and landlines. For the first time, we achieved this record in 2004. The next year, the FDI limit on telecom raised from 49 to 74%. So until now, less than half could be foreign money. Now, nearly three-fourths could be foreign money. So this led to a lot of foreign investment pouring in. Portability was proposed in 2006, the number portability. 2008, MTNL, which is of course a PSU, Mahanagar Telecom Nigam Limited, they brought the first ever 3G service to Delhi and Mumbai. CDMA players were allowed to use GSM service as well. They were now servicing in GSM. 2009, 2009 was actually one step back because the 2G spectrum scam was first alleged, but the year also saw the first Android phone launched in India for around 30,000 rupees, a lot of money back then. The next year, 3G and broadband wireless access spectrum auctions ended. Mobile phone portability became national in 2011, 2012. The 2G scam fallout. So the Supreme Court cancelled all 122 spectrum licenses issued between 2007 and 9. Year 2012 also saw one more historic thing: the first ever 4G network in the country. That happened in Kolkata. The next year there was 100% FDI allowed. So we moved from 49 to 74, and now full 100%. Operators allowed to provide all telecom services under one license. Homegrown Micromax became in 2014 the largest mobile phone supplier of India. I mean, we were just discussing about Micromax a while back, and this again speaks of that. 2016, Reliance Jio was launched, which Volte, that led to the start of a price war. Roaming charges went out 2017 completely, and in 2020, Jio says its indigenously developed 5G network is ready for rollout. So massive progress. I mean, the last 25 years, communications has been one area which has obviously um, done extremely well. Right. Coming to the next page, not much here. There's news about a smart cookie which can be made the perfect choco chip. So you can probably go through this report to all those people who are interested in cooking and in the food segment. Right. Need to keep checking my volume. Okay, there is an important story on novelists and writers. Few days back, I took a class on how to improve your reading habits. So these are four writers you can probably look at. We are looking at four Indian writers, young Indian women writers, all of them who are doing really well in the West with their debut novel. So their names are, one is, I just read out to you the names. One is Shubhangi Swaroop. She has been picked up by Oprah and Gwyneth Paltrow's book club. There's also Avni Doshi. Now, her achievement is probably really phenomenal. She has been longlisted for this year's 2020's Booker Prize. Long list is the first list. From there, you take out a short list, and from there, of course, you choose the final winners. There's also Miss Amrita Mahale, who was shortlisted for the 2019 Crossword Book Award in the fiction category. And finally, there is Madhuri Vijay, who was the winner last year of the JCB Prize for Literature. And Avni, especially, I would like to quote some of her lines. I mean, she has spoken about how the writers such as Jhumpa Lahiri, Kiran Desai, Arundhati Roy, I mentioned all their names in my reading class, how these are the kind of writers who have really inspired her to write. And they obviously won a lot of acclaim in the West, a lot of awards as well. You know, Jhumpa Lahiri won the Pulitzer, Arundhati won the Booker, Kiran Desai also won the Booker. So how they have inspired the writer in her. Um, there is also, I don't know if you might be aware on, is it Netflix or Amazon Prime? I'm not sure. I think on Netflix there has been a new series on arranged marriages in the US among the NRIs. So one of the ladies who's the wedding fixer. So there is an article on this entire concept um, by uh, by Twinkle Khanna, who's a really a well-known writer herself. Finally, there's an article on somebody who was possibly the world's richest man, but definitely one of the richest men in his time. He was the last Nizam of Hyderabad. You might be aware that Hyderabad was a princely state. Princely states were those which were semi-independent within the subcontinent, but they were sort of you could say protectorates of the British Empire. So they were not completely independent. How independent they were, that's a matter of debate. We can discuss someday. But nominally, they were independent. At least the kings could retain their palaces at least. So he was one of the world's richest men. One of the reasons for that was the monopoly of diamonds. Monopoly ended after South Africa's diamonds were discovered. But yes, the Golconda mines in what is now Telangana, back then was the Nizam's territories. They really came, they were among the biggest sources. So he was a flamboyant man, lived his life like a king, obviously. And so there is a story about his property, and there was a massive dispute. There were many heirs, about 120 heirs, who had claim to some part of the property at least. And this was a story across countries: India, Pakistan, and the United Kingdom. So finally, that case has uh, has been solved. So you can have a take a look at this. I am moving to the editorial page. Before that, little bit of life tips given by some of the experts. So one of them speaks about ashwagandha tea, which can really help boost immunity. And there are some other herbs which have been listed, such as black pepper, tulsi, ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, clove, and of course green tea. All of them commonly available in India nowadays. Barring green tea, the others have all been part of the Ayurveda school. So these are things which are being promoted quite a bit. I'll come back to the international and the sports pages. Before that, little bit I need to speak on the editorial. This one very good article by one of the top economists, political economists, I should call him. He is an economist, but he speaks often with a political view because obviously macroeconomics depends on the broader global geostrategic positions. So the article, the title is, name of the writer is Swaminathan Ankalesarya Iyer. His article appears every Sunday on the Times of India called Swaminomics, and a lot of his articles have actually shaped my worldview. So this is one writer which I'll ask all of you to read regularly. So the title of this article is "Sare Jahan Se Acha is a better economic mantra." So what he says is, while Atmanirbhar sounds good, even better would be Sare Jahan Se Acha. Being Atmanirbhar, being self-reliant, is actually a throwback to Nehruvian economics and Soviet economics. The reason why the Soviet Union lost the Cold War to the USA was because, according to him, they relied on the philosophy of Atmanirbhar, did not encourage much of international trade, relied on business within the country and within the broad Warsaw Pact group of communist countries. And eventually, in terms of technology, in terms of economy, they were far behind the US and its Western allies. So he feels that this is populist, the Atmanirbhar, but we should probably go for Sare Jahan Se Acha, where we are producing locally, but we're producing the best. There is often this belief, he says, that we tend to think of China as a country that supplies the world's cheapest stuff because they have the cheapest labor. That may have been true in the past, but that is far from the truth right now. Today, China is a leader in terms of technology. It is one of the first countries which has made mass use of the 5G network. I'm not yet mass enough, but still there is significant deployment of 5G technology. Every other country is far away from there. In fact, in 5G technology, it is Huawei, Chinese company Huawei, Huawei, which pronounces Huawei. They are on top. The ones which are closest are neighboring Korea, Samsung, Finland's Nokia, and Sweden's Ericsson. But interestingly, not a single American company comes anywhere nearby. Chinese drones, a couple of years back, last year rather, when tragically for the entire world and world's heritage, there was this fire at the Notre Dame Church in Paris. Which country's drones were used? Take a guess. Chinese drones. Not because of anything to do with nationalism, but because Chinese drones are the best. Those produced by a certain company in China. There is also a semiconductor company which has been mentioned. And in terms of solar energy, it is Jinko Solar, which is now the world's biggest and best supplier of solar cells and panels. So these companies are way ahead. Xi Jinping and his government has a plan to make China a global leader in artificial intelligence and robotics by 2025. So, towards the end, as a solution, what Mr. Iyer speaks about, he speaks about the RSS, which is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is, in fact, you can say the mothership behind the birth of the BJP, now definitely in power in the country. So, he speaks about RSS's huge network of schools, which are called the Vidya Bharati schools, which are present all over the country. So, he states the exact numbers. They have around 5,241 elementary schools and 2,635 high schools, the Vidya Bharati network I'm talking about, which have a total of around over 3 million students enrolled. He feels that these are run extremely well, these Vidya Bharati schools, and he advises, Mr. Iyer advises that their network could be expanded to include science, which can take on China someday, not too far away. So he closes with this, that India's future should remain strong with this Sare Jahan Se Acha mantra. There is an article by Professor Anita Rampal, who is a former Dean, Faculty of Education in the Delhi University. Like several other commentators, she speaks about the NEP, or the new education policy. She says that it reads like an impressive list. However, there are some major barriers towards right to education. She feels the one thing where more focus could have been made was the RTE, which stands for Right to Education, which now remains at 6 to 14 years of age. She feels that could have been expanded to 3 to 18. Right? So a lot of the disadvantaged groups she's mentioned, especially from some of the, there are the caste and religious factors as well. So a lot of the communities do suffer from this thing, which is where she is laying emphasis. She's also done a recommendation for ECCE, which is Early Childhood Care and Education. The expectation is that there will be debates in the parliament on the NEP further, and these could be some of the issues which will be taken up. Shobha De, who's quite often a lifestyle writer, she has written about Amitabh Bachchan and his bold response to trolls. Trolls today are a huge army of people who will abuse you, who will mock you for whatever you do online. So she speaks that Amitabh Bachchan has given the perfect response, because Amitabh Bachchan, one of the trolls abused him real badly, wanted apparently him to die. I mean, I shudder to think how can people write such stuff about anybody you don't know that well. I mean, for anybody for that matter. A lot of people find comfort behind a computer screen, and they can say anything. So Shobha speaks about how Amitabh Bachchan actually responded to that person, and that is the right method to use. Finally, I'm coming to an article by Mr. Nikhil Pahwa, who's the founder of Media Nama, which is a consultancy working in the media segment. So he says, I'll just read out to you the headline: Nationalization of data will destroy value for business and investors. So there is a proposal which is doing the rounds within the Indian government for nationalizing data, because there's enormous amounts of data. People do read about this term called big data. So because of the enormous quantities of bytes issued every day, there is this feeling that the government should have a repository, a data warehouse where it stores all this data, and this can actually be used by others in business. So he feels that this will open up data to everyone in the business segment, which will be really bad for businesses because everybody gets to know others' data. Uh, the idea behind having so much of data at the government is for artificial intelligence. Robots could then glean through. They need the belief is that as much data is available, robots can actually glean through it and extract the right data to give us, the kind of trends that we want. However, Mr. Pahawa denies that. He says that a lot of reports have suggested that there is an art involved in how you sieve the data. So it's not only about quantities of data, but the quality of data. It has been known that a lot of AI devices, they actually do an equally good job, maybe even better job if they have less data to glean insights from. So he feels that so much data need not be stored, but only some of it which will be of significant consideration. So the art part has been focused on. I'm done with the editorial. I will move towards the sports page. Before that, little bit on the international side. A couple of things here. I had told you earlier about the US China relations not doing that good. And one of them is, like India, the US is also considering and has already banned a lot of Chinese apps. I told you about Apple, how they removed 29,800 apps from its China store. Similarly, Donald Trump, the president of the USA, has reiterated he wants to ban TikTok from the US because TikTok stands accused of being a spying, an app used for spying purposes, for gathering intelligence. He says that the company will be closed in a few days. The owner of the biggest investor, I should say, of TikTok is ByteDance, a Chinese company. But Microsoft has now jumped in to buy the TikTok shares in the US as well as in a few other countries. I'll talk more about that in today's newspaper session, which starts at 3 p.m. So the session that was for today. So today's newspaper has that on detail. So I will discuss about that when I do it. Now, moving on to the other side of the Pacific Ocean, moving to Russia. Russia plans mass vaccination against coronavirus from October. This is massive news. So, the Russian Health Minister Mikhail Murashko, he says that there is a certain vaccine. We've been talking about this Russian vaccine, which has been out for a while. Supposed vaccine, we don't have 100% proof that it's fully effective, but there's this institute called Gamaleya Institute, which has started production. From October, things will begin. He says that by 2021, the production will be ramped up, and we will be able to um, defeat coronavirus using this thing. The WHO is not as upbeat about this as Russia is. The WHO says expect lengthy pandemic. It can go on for a really long time. As if it hasn't been long enough, but they are saying it's long enough. You guys have nothing to suffer. Study online from Unacademy, from myself, from other teachers on this channel. Let's crack management exams. So you will have nothing to lose on that front. There's alarming news from the USA. Now it is spreading among kids as well. Apparently, we earlier thought that small children were less vulnerable, but it is now spreading among them as well. So Vietnam, we've seen the tragic case, how for 100 days they had no cases. Now they have its first ever death because it re-emerged. And this is a more virulent strain, the present one in Vietnam. So three dozen new cases and a third virus death by now has entered Vietnam. So this is really tragic news. Moving back to the USA, there's another disease outbreak that has hit 30 states of USA, and that is salmonella, which of course originates from food, and it can affect nearly 400 people have been infected in 30 states. Researchers say that red onions could be the source of this thing. That's where the salmonella strain probably emerged from. The Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has notified the Thomson International Incorporated that it will be recalling all varieties of a certain red onion, which is apparently responsible for this. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is the CDCP, has spoken especially about the city of Newport, where 396 people have been hurt. Okay, there's news from the Middle East, and in fact, the first day itself, when I did my first ever newspaper session, which I think was on the 22nd of July, this is one of the things that I spoke about, how the UAE has become the first Arabic-speaking country to launch a probe into Mars. So UAE, I had also said that UAE has become the first Arabic-speaking country to develop a nuclear plant. This I discussed in the January current affairs session. Again, I believe the first January session. There were three, I think, in the first one. So there is this town called Baraka, which is in the Abu Dhabi Emirate. UAE, has 7 emirates. So in the Abu Dhabi Emirate, there's this town of Baraka, which has seen the first nuclear plant. So that has started working from this Saturday itself. It's a $20 billion project, the overall nuclear power plant in Baraka. It's on the far western desert near the border with Saudi Arabia, and has been built with help from a company from the South Korea. Once it starts proper production, it will be connected to the national grid. Several countries in the world, especially in Europe, use nuclear energy as their primary source of energy because it's highly efficient. Of course, if you have a tragic accident, then it goes out of control. But till you have something as bad as that, the nuclear energy can actually be nuclear energy can be least wasteful. It has a 99% efficiency during the process of conversion to energy. France and Germany are among the largest users of nuclear energy. Japan used to be one, but after the Fukushima disaster, they have reduced the numbers. Some more international news before I move to my favorite section, which is sports. Some of you may be aware of the Murdoch family. Rupert Murdoch, of course, is the patriarch. They are among the largest media. They own among the largest media companies in the world. News Corp is the overall company under which you have several different banners. So James Murdoch has actually quit the family run due to editorial issues. So this could be a big business news. There's a News Corp was also involved in one of the Me Too episodes. So guys, please read up about the News Corp organization for business news. Moving in again, once again to the USA, there's something called L1 visa. I'm not sure if you've heard of L1 visa. You have probably also heard of H1B visa. So there's one is the B1, B2, which is for tourists, something which I have, tourists and business people who have for one-time visits. So total 6 months it lasts. You can have multiple visits within those 6 months as dates. There's also an H1B visa, which is for permanent residents for a certain period of time. This is the last step before you get a green card. The L1 visa is for employees who are posted permanently for a few years. H1B visa is for people who individually take a visa. So if I'm a student and I'll be working, studying there for 3 years, 4 years, and then I start working, in that case, as a student or I'm working, I get an H1B visa. B1, B2 is for short-term visits. L1 is for staying a few years, but when a company has sponsored your visa and not when you have applied yourself, right? That's the major difference. So L1 is quite a strong visa. L1 the application fee is going to rise by 75%. That has been announced by the USA. Likewise, there will be a 21% increase in the fee of the H1B visa. Indians are the largest holders of the H1B visa. This is because there is an emergency fund of $1.2 million which is required. So for that, this payment will come in handy. Right. So moving on to sports, Saturday was a very important day in English football, or you could say world football. Often forgotten this competition, but the FA Cup remains the oldest extant football tournament in the world. By the way, the second oldest extant is in India, the Durand Cup and the Rovers Cup. But more on that later. The FA Cup won by Arsenal. Arsenal also won in 2014, I believe, 14, 15 and 17. So this makes it their fourth success in 7 years. First trophy won as a manager for Mikel Arteta, their manager, who had won many trophies as an assistant to Pep Guardiola at Man City. But as a senior manager, this is his first trophy. So Arsenal ending the season very well. They still have the Europa League to look forward to. This ensures they have European qualification next season. It also ensures they'll be opening the next season in the Community Shield with a game against Liverpool, who are the league champions. In spite of Arsenal's poor league form, they finished the season 8th. This cup victory would bring joy. And now, of course, you have the Europa League, which is going to restart shortly. No surprises. Who was the main goal scorer in the final? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the Gabonese star, scoring 2 goals. He has just a year left on his contract, but Arsenal fans are hoping he will extend this. Chelsea lost the final by a single goal. Sticking to football, Paris Saint-Germain or PSG, the champions of France. This year the league was suspended after the coronavirus outbreak, and it did not restart unlike its peers in Italy, Spain, England and Germany. So PSG were awarded the league because they had a massive lead. But the cup final was played, which was against, I believe it was against, it was against Olympique Lyon, and 3,500 spectators were allowed here. So away from no crowds. This was the first step of crowds coming in, but of course very few in a stadium. The Stade de France, which holds about 80,000 fans, this was a minuscule number. So PSG won the game on penalties. The game ended 0-0 after extra time. Kylian Mbappe celebrated, but he's injured, the French star. So he might miss the Champions League matches. The UEFA Champions League restarts. PSG's game is against Italian upstarts BC Atalanta, who have definitely been the romantic story of this season's Champions League. PSG, on the other hand, lot of money. So it's David versus Goliath story. Let's see how it works. They haven't won the Champions League ever, so that is their target this year. Right. So I am more or less done with Sunday's newspaper. I'll just keep the session open for a few minutes in case anybody comes up with anything. Uh, so do let me know. This is my code. Do like, share, or subscribe. And this is the code at the bottom, AD09. So what are you waiting for? Do enroll whenever you can. Yeah, I'm having a Kit Kat. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm done with the session. So thank you all so much. See you again today in, I believe, 2 hours this time. 3 o'clock, my next session begins. So see, see you all for then. This is the code. Thank you so much.